your meeting. All set? Good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the Town of Pownell Select Board Meeting, August 13th, 2026 at 6:01 PM. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Board member roll call.
Julie Weber, Jeannie Alexander,
Mike Gardner,
Carl Strohmeyer, Jamie Percy.
we all rise for the pledge of allegiance, please. Good, Julie?
yep,
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda, we can remove, proposed executive for personnel. Other than that, I don't have any changes. Anybody have any changes? Other than that? Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment? No hands up? Any public comment from anyone in the room? Okay. Agenda's a little different tonight. We're gonna, instead of doing warrants and minutes, we're gonna hear from the Mount DEC regarding the PFOA contamination around town. So, come up and state your name.
Hi, everyone. I'm Trish Capolino. I'm the Senior Environmental Program Manager for our Contaminated Sites Program. And this is Graham Brad. He works in my program with me and is a project manager at some of the sites in town. And I think there might be some other staff from DEC online joining. There's Casey Cathan. She's in our program also. So we were asked to come and present to you by Tara. So we met with Tara and Carl about a month or so ago. And the intent of our meeting, and Rep. Bongartz was there too, and Michael. So the intent of our meeting was to go over the different sites in Pownell that have PFAS contamination, talk about what's happening there, what some of the next steps are, what some of the complications are that we're having. But bigger picture was working with the town on how to try and help some of the residents that have impacted drinking water supply wells, and how we can help the town move some of these projects forward, generally speaking. So I can go over the sites that we talked about, and then we can talk about what some of the next steps are that we have planned, and maybe hear from you on what you might have as concerns or no concerns at all, and move forward from there. Does that sound okay?
Perfect.
Okay. So there are multiple sites in Pownell that have PFAS contamination, and I will just start in order of how we went on our tour. And so the first one was the former Warren Wire site, which is on Center Street. We are currently working with the responsible party to do some work out there. You may have noticed that they dug up some contaminated soil from the lot to try and help reduce impacts to groundwater. Oh, there's the rest of my team. And we're working towards sampling private supply wells that are impacted with PFAS. And so recently our PFAS standards in groundwater have lowered. There were 20 and now the lowest one is 4. And so we're reevaluating impacts to those private supply wells that are located around that specific site on Center Street. And that sampling should happen again. And I think the project manager said in like 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be doing some resampling. In this case, if there are exceedances to those homes, we would ask the RP responsible party to provide bottled water and then put some sort of treatment system on those wells, since there isn't public water there. I'm gonna let Graham talk about this since he has more knowledge on them. Ted, do you want to talk about Lampman since you're right there?
Yeah, sure. We can talk about Lampman. A small water system that takes care of the mobile home park there in Pownell Center. They do have PFAS detections in their water system. I'm actually looking at their most recent sampling, and it does seem to be going down. There is still detectable. It was up around 4 to 5 parts per trillion. The last 2 samples that were done in June looks like PFOA was 1.49 parts per trillion and PFOS was 1.17. So it's definitely dropped a little, but it is still detections there. And the concern with Lampman's is they do have funding for a development of a plan to get treatment and construction. The problem is it's going to be over $50,000 a year to maintain that treatment, and they only have 45 users, and that's just not a feasible option for them, according to Scott Lampman when I was speaking with him. So that's the concern of, yes, they can design it, yes, they can build it, it won't cost them anything, but it's the maintenance, the yearly maintenance on that system that will really hamstring that water system.
And I'm going to take a quick pause or set aside. So the one of the outcomes of our meeting in June was that our plan was to meet monthly with Tara and maybe Carl just to talk about what the needs are for the town and figure out how we could help do that. And before we had our first meeting, Tara asked us to come here and speak with you. So I just want to make sure you know who all the other people on the screen are, because they will probably be part of these ongoing meetings. And so Casey's in the top left, and she works in the sites program with us. Sean is in the bottom left, and I think you might know Sean. He's the project manager for the panel dump site. Everything just moved. Malika is in the middle, and so she works on the O'Neill property area impacts. Ryan's in the top right, and he's in our enforcement program. And there were comments, discussions around illegal dumping and inability to try and deal with some of that. So Ryan's here to help with that piece. Ted's in our drinking water program, and he's going to help with any drinking water infrastructure issues, like concerns to bring back to that division. And then Amy works in WID, and Tom Brown works in WID. And so they both work in a funding program to help with funding, but Tom's program is the one that's helping with the funding for the panel dump.
Yep.
So that's the team that we put together to try and help move forward and potentially meet monthly on any needs that you have. And then if there are other agencies or programmatic needs, we can invite them in as needed. So I'll keep going now. And I'm going to skip Graham's until the end. So actually Sean's here now. Sean, do you want to give a quick overview for everybody of the panel dump and where things are?
Sure. Well, nothing's changed since our last field trip in June. But generally speaking, where we're at now is we've over the past. Can everybody hear me? First of all,
Yeah.
good. High level summary. Several iterations of groundwater assessments have been conducted on and surrounding the unlined, uncapped former town dump site, which is adjacent to the permitted and capped and lined site with the solar array on it. So the contaminant source area being the unlined, uncapped site or cell rather, and since 2018, we've done several site assessments to characterize and assess groundwater contamination. We've sampled nearby drinking water supply wells. And since January, when the standard for PFAS changed, we now have 8 private drinking water supply wells that are above the existing PFAS standards. And so I've been working with Tara quite a bit and the town's consultant on not only dealing with in moving forward with the drinking water supply well issue, but also moving forward through with our rule and moving into corrective action planning. And so that's generally where we're at with the landfill site on Maple Grove Road. And I can answer any specific questions on that one.
And I have a request of the board, but I'll wait until they're done with their update as far as the bulk water portion of that.
Malika, do you want to give a quick overview of the project you're working on, the O'Neill residence, Quarry Hill Road?
Sure. So the homeowners of 583 Quarry Hill Road had their well sampled in 2022. They built their home in 2023 and had their well tested for PFAS. There were exceedances. The initial results were about 180 parts per trillion for the sum of the 5 different compounds back in 2023. And so the homeowners reached out to VTDEC for help on next steps. We did a couple of rounds of site investigation. One initial round where we were, looking at a couple different types of soil that had been brought to the site as fill for the property, and realized that it seemed to be like the native soil had higher concentrations of PFAS. We did an additional site investigation and sampled more soil, but at depth, and then also did some work in the field that's adjacent to the property. We did have some water supply wells in the vicinity of the home that were impacted. I think at this point, there are about 8 homes that are impacted under the revised standard. The range of detections is from about non-detect to 35 parts per trillion for PFOA. And next steps are to determine possible connections of the impacted wells, and then also look at the construction quality of the O'Neill well itself with borehole geophysics. But that work has been on hold for a little bit.
Can I ask a clarification question?
Yes.
Thank you for that. So are you saying in addition to the 2023 bill that there are 8 additional private supply wells that are also impacted on Quarry Hill Road
Yes.
for 8 different residents?
Yes, they are. They're on Quarry Hill Road, and then on North Pownell Road. So I guess the road that goes east-west.
Has there been a responsible party identified for that property?
So if we talk about responsible parties are the owners of the property, and then any people who may have caused, contributed, or worsened the contamination. So owned it in the past and dumped onto it. Right now, the only responsible party we know of are the owners of the residence, even though we don't believe they put the contamination there, but they're responsible just for the pure fact of owning it. So we've been working with our attorney just to look at past owners to see if we can find any other owners that could help contribution towards site cleanup and taking care of the issues, but to date we haven't.
And this is kind of a part of that question, but is there a way, you have an enforcement guy here, is there a way to show a footprint of the chemicals so that we could say the dump site, for example, we aren't necessarily responsible on our own, that it could be from Warren Wire or the tannery site?
Like, what does the fingerprint look like? Do you have that in front of you?
It looks like it's primarily PFOA, and we do see some PFHPA in there. And there's also some PFBS, so a shorter chain compound, but it looks primarily like it's almost a 10-to-1 for plastic manufacturing. So I guess the short answer is yes, we do kind of have a fingerprint.
And I don't know that we have gone through, so this is a great exercise for us when we get back all into Montpelier to put all of our sites next to each other. I know that the tannery that Graham will talk about has a completely different fingerprint than that, or some extra PFAS, but we can definitely do that piece of it.
Yeah, so that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, real important.
that this site is close enough to the dump site. that we would-
No, I'm just referring to the two main sites, Warrenwire and.
Got it. Yeah. All right, so Ram
Okay.
and Ted. So Ted, I'll say Ted is working on the fire district supply well, and Graham is working on the site associated with that, and then has North Pownell, all the projects in North Pownell. So do you both want to talk about general Warrenwire, general cable first?
I'll say a few words and I'll pass it over to you, Ted, and then back to me. So following the discovery of PFAS and the regulation of PFAS, following the discovery in Bennington, we did testing around public wells, including Pownell Fire District number 2 back in 2016, I think it was, and discovered the PFOA, one of the PFAS compounds that Malika mentioned. And they, I think you all know already, they installed the sort of temporary treatment system paid for by who we are calling the responsible party, APU, who are the legacy companies. You follow the chain of companies back to General Cable and Warrenwire. They're in that chain, so they're responsible. And then we've been working with them to install a permanent water treatment system, which of course was just finished last year and came online. And that's your cue, Ted, talking a little bit more about that.
Yeah, when we were on site back in June, we visited the Pownell Fire District 2 treatment plant. It's a very nice treatment plant where they treat first for iron and manganese, and then use granular activated carbon to remove the PFAS compounds. And everything that we can see from testing is that the filters are working very well. There are no breakthroughs on PFAS. They've been testing, the last tests were done in the end of April, and they all came back as non-detect on the effluent. So I'm trying to see if it shows me what they were incoming. So yeah, influent before treatment, we're looking at 26 parts per trillion for PFOA and 1.4 parts per trillion for PFHXA. And then PFBS was 0.85. So definite reduction in the compounds using that treatment.
So that's part of the cleanup or the corrective actions that we need to deal with first, the public water supply. But still, there's the issue, there is PFAS in groundwater, and it seems to be associated, very likely, I think we can say, we're pretty sure, it's the Warrenwire plant, that in the manufacture of Teflon, they use PFOA, and some of it is left in the Teflon. And so when the plant was operating, coating the wire fabric with Teflon, they heat it, it goes up the stack so it can be distributed that way. It could also be poured on the ground or go straight into the groundwater. So I have to say that APU, although they paid for the treatment system, it's Pownell Fire District number 2, they're still denying legal responsibility, saying it's not them. There isn't another source of PFOA in such quantities that we're aware of around. So who else could it be? So that's ongoing. We still need them to look at the groundwater issue and how to solve that, as well as the public water supply, and also make sure there's no deal with PFOA, PFAS installing on the site as well. So that's the
And then-
general cable.
Associated with that, there are at least 3 private wells that are impacted, one of which has a POET on a treatment system.
Yeah, that's an immediate vicinity of the old Warrenwire, now owned by
Mac Power Realty.
Mac.
Yeah.
So if I can ask, so you said there was APU that continues to deny any responsibility of it.
They've paid and continue to maintain the water supply, the PFAS related part of it, but yes, they don't accept responsibility.
So the ultimate point of determination that is that an administrative law issue? Like where is,
Find a court with.
okay.
So I have a question. Is there a way to like PFAS or PFOAs or whatever, do they have specific? Are there different types? Do they have specific compounds or are they all the same? So if warm wire, say, had a compound that was 1, 2, 3, 4, right? If you're following on accident.
Yeah.
So could you link those sites together, say with site number 7 on Brown Street? And I'm being hypothetical.
In theory, but it's complicated. It's dominated by PFOA. 90% of the PFAS in the well is PFOA. And that actual dominance of PFOA is characteristic of Teflon. But you can start looking, this is where APU are trying to balance their issues, they're very minor. But it's the PFOA. Yeah.
I will lose that question.
I would say like the general work that all the people on the screen and Graham are doing is we have a source area and then we look to see where that contamination can go and we try to address the issues associated with that. So Graham and Sean and Malika, they're really hydrogeologists, so they're looking at how the groundwater is moving and how the contamination is traveling in the subsurface and then trying to track it back. So that is generally what we're doing with all of these sites, which I think might help with future conversations that you're having around bottled water. But we do try to make sure that before we tell someone that they are responsible for something, that we can at least track it back to the location is either through bait and transport of contamination, or that we can say that the contamination is similar enough to do that.
So moving further north to North Pownell, the issue there is with Pownell Tannery. Originally a woolen mill, then a cotton mill, then in the early 1900s became the tannery. PFAS was introduced in the late 50s, 60s, and it's in products like Scotchgard. It was used for stain resistant products and water resistance products at the tannery. So initially, we have evidence of tannery waste going to the original town dump that is in the area that we're calling Barlow Gravel Pit, up the hill from Dean Road there. And we're seeing PFAS in that site there, the original town dump. The tannery itself, the waste sludge from the tannery onto the lagoon area beside the Hoosick that you're probably aware of, and also to the landfill that's at the end of Dean Road at the start of the footpaths on that map up there. And we've seen a PFAS signature associated with that. PFOA, PFOS, PFHXS, a few different compounds that appear to have been used in those stain resistance and water resistance.
And so one thing I'm going to just interrupt for a second. It was easy for us to say that the PFAS contamination we're seeing at the Warren Wire General Cable site was not the same as what was at the tannery. That was an easy one for us to say, like, it's not migrating down there, or they didn't put the contamination in those specific spots.
Yeah. And EPA, and of course that is a Superfund site. So EPA took over responsibility at that site, although now that initial remediation was completed, we manage the long-term maintenance and monitoring of that site. But EPA still retain responsibility for the original contamination, and so they're doing a study since they never originally looked at PFAS. They were looking at other metals for the tanning process. So they're now doing a study, which they're starting this year, over the next 2 years, to better understand the distribution of PFAS in North Pownell associated with the Superfund site.
So the migration of it.
Exactly, yeah. And in conjunction with that, the state is, we originally tested private wells back in 2017, 2018, when we had that higher standard, 20 parts per trillion. There was 8 wells in North Pownell that were discovered above that 20. And so the state paid for individual point of entry treatment systems, and we've been maintaining those ever since. Now, this year, that standard has been lowered to 4 parts per trillion. So we're going back to sample again to see which wells are above the new standard. And then I understand the state will be helping homeowners with address those issues as well.
And the timeframe for that, Graham?
So we're waiting for clearance of funding higher up than us, which we expect to get in the next week or 2. And so we will be starting to contact homeowners in September and setting up a public meeting and to encourage participation however we can. Bennington Banner, Front Porch Forum, let people know it's happening. Encourage people to have their wells tested. Of course, I think there's a high likelihood it's associated with tannery. The state, I'm not quite sure how, we're hoping to help out, or will be helping out with bottled water and treatment for wells that are found to be over 4 parts per trillion. So that sampling will be taking place this fall. Once we've actually taken a sample, it takes up to a month to get those results back from the lab, and then we'll be contacting people and making further arrangements from there.
So at this point, how many private wells are we aware of? Are you aware of that are contaminated?
16, 20.
8 seems to be a go number.
I know, so I was saying the 8. I was wondering if those were the same.
That's 16. You have, then we have 4, so we're at 28, I think, right now that we know of. My expectation is there will most likely be additional wells in North Pownell.
Yeah, we
that are
expect
above
there to be additional
4.
wells.
So one of the things after we looked at all the different sites, we talked about options for townwide water systems, or whether or not they're localized water systems, like a water system for North Pownell, water systems up for the O'Neill residents. Like, what can we do to try and help all of the wells in town that are just kind of dispersed within little clusters, and see how that could work out? And so we went back to the office and we were able to advocate to get funding set aside to do a PER. So looking at, it's a preliminary environmental
Engineering.
engineering. I do environmental and everything. It's coming out of our drinking water program, but they've asked us to manage it. And so the process is that
PER, I'm sorry.
PER, yes. So it'll just be a study, and it'll be a study that looks at townwide options for water. It could be public water, it could be private water, but it looks at ways to make sure that residents are getting PFAS free or reduced PFAS water. And the outcome will be something for you to consider. I will make sure that you are as involved as you want to be in any of the alternatives that are looked at, whether or not it's townwide or smaller systems or replacement wells or POETs or anything like that. I think all options should be considered when we're looking at what we're trying to do here. And then I think at some point it would be good for us to look at collecting more water samples in town. And I know Michael had some options for that. We your program. I don't know if you want to talk about that or if I'm getting off base with what you want us to talk about, Tara.
No, it would be helpful. Yeah, I think it would be helpful. We can help. Yeah, absolutely, please.
Right there.
So I will say that the PER there's no cost to the town for this, so there's no match.
How long is the expectation approximately how that study will take?
I have it on the back of here. Right now, we probably won't be able to have a consultant until January. So there's just work that has to be done with EPA to get the money all set and get a contract out and hire a consultant to do the work. And then I think it's probably like 4 to 6 months for the report process to happen, depending on what we build into it. I mean, there could be a point where we build in a public meeting and engagement series. So I think it will be dependent on what we have them look at.
So approximately mid next year.
It would be summertime for sure. Yep.
And I think it's important to look at that because I think it was Ted that mentioned the cost of Lampman's water system. I operate a part farther down south. We have detection of the PFAS down there. It could become so I can't operate that system anymore and they need a higher level water operator. It becomes more costly to maintain the system. And we have small systems like that around town. And it's hugely costly to installing systems and keep them maintained.
Michael Fernandez, Bennington County Conservation District. When last we met, I committed to exploring what's called a regional conservation partnership program through the USDA NRCS. I ran into a brick wall and broke my nose on that one. They were not interested in that at all. However, SEMA 209, which is the PFAS soil and water testing, is available through Equip Classic. So any resident of Pownell that qualifies for that program should reach out to me and my staff or the NRCS. We'll probably get to the request faster to determine eligibility. It is a little bit of an interesting needle to thread. It is largely a working lands program. We have gotten people in who are more home gardener scale in the past. Although the new administration seems to be making some pretty substantial changes that we're still adapting to. The application deadline for that program was released yesterday. It is September 25th. So we've got about 40 days for folks to turn in applications if they want to be considered for funding this round. That process takes anywhere between 6 to 18 months. So this is not a quick solution by any means. If the state is able to, whenever possible, we should be leaning on the state program, particularly for drinking water, potable water, bathing water. However, for agricultural water sources, for garden soil, for farm soil, that's probably where the district can be more of assistance to the town, as well as with collaborating on the outreach effort with DEC, with the town, and helping not necessarily quarterback, but maybe halfback, to use a sports metaphor. We can help try and get some stuff over the line. We can help canvas, and we're happy to assist with sampling efforts as needed, and are committed to working with DEC and other partners on this.
That's a really quick application turnaround.
Yeah, isn't it?
And I presume on average folks might need some assistance with that.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick form. It's the CPA 1200. I believe it's on the town website. It's on the district's website. If folks need assistance filling it out, I'm happy to do that. My staff are happy to do that. We can do that as a site visit. I can also do office hours and help folks over Zoom. It is a relatively simple form to fill out, but you do have to know some specific language to use to make sure that you're put in the right, they aren't calling it pools anymore. Now it's categories. Yeah, they changed a lot on us this year. That program will pay anywhere between just over $1,100. I believe it's $1,184 and change for a test and down to 808. So there's a wide range depending on demographic status, whether you're a historically underserved producer, so that's a limited resource individual, a beginning farmer or rancher, a veteran farmer or rancher. I don't think they're doing socially disadvantaged anymore. So that's why we really encourage folks to, if you are interested in trying to pursue this, reach out to us directly. Or you can reach out to Tara and Tara can connect you with us, because it took me 2 years to learn this program. And it's a very complicated process, but we've gotten pretty good at getting folks over the finish line on it. And it's going to be a really competitive year for Equip. There's a lot more money in the system now, but a full quarter has been dedicated to the regenerative pilot program. And then another roughly 50% is supposedly going into local funding pools. So we only have about 25% of the statewide Equip Classic budget available for this. And with how expensive the tests are, it's a process, and hopefully we'll be able to get this over the line. And what my hope is that if we do receive a lot of applications for this, because the impression at the NRCS is that people do not want their soil tested or their water tested because of the impacts it can have on property values. If we can disprove that notion with applications, there's a much higher chance that these projects get funded. But it is going to be an art of convincing the USDA to take this seriously, because they specifically opted to not increase the payment rate for those tests this year, because they were under the assumption that no one was going to actually want to test their soil or their water. That is a direct quote.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, I've talked to some of those residents in North Pownell who do have impacted wells, like private wells. And one of the questions that they do have that has been raised is, okay, so they're not drinking that water, but they're bathing in it. Their children are bathing in it. And so, and I asked two of them, I said, so is that considered safe? And their answer was, we have no idea. So what's your best information you can give us on this?
We've said bathing is okay, but not brushing your teeth with it or consuming it or anything like that. Malika has been working on an updated fact sheet that hopefully we should be done shortly. That is specifically to homeowners, trying to make the information plain language is easy to understand, but also provide some links that will take you to more detailed information if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, if we could make that available too, that'd be great.
Yeah.
It's the Department of Health that actually assess the health risks, and we'll also be providing property owners with contacts at the Department of Health they can contact. They have a private well program. They'll be able to talk more about those kind of issues.
Thank you.
I think a lot of the links that we have in our document shift you over to the Department of Health, since they are talking about health impacts.
You want me to jump in with our bulk water portion? Sure. As mentioned, we currently the responsible party for the former landfill site. There are 8 residences that have tested over that threshold of 4 parts per trillion. So we need to provide water. I've been working with Sean. We looked at the state contract. I was able to find a little bit better pricing through Sand Springs. They can do, the bottles are $8 for a 5-gallon bottle with a $7 deposit, which is less than what we would have been paying through the state. They also couldn't get an agreement figured out within 3 months to do that with us. So I looked at the Sand Springs, like I said, they can do a hand pump for the 5-gallon bottles in their weekly pickup delivery schedule.
I would work that out for residents, what works best for them. As far as amount they need, we would work that out. Sand Springs is really good at working with family to figure out how much water they're gonna need and that sort of thing. We already use them as a town. And preemptively, I kind of had a conversation with Ellen earlier. And she created a PFOA bulk water line for me so we can track the expense. However, my hope is that we could do a preemptive budget adjustment. Is that what I'm calling it?
Yes.
And move money from the contracted law enforcement line, either 5,000 or 10,000 into this bulk water line. So that we're not worried, doing budget adjustments at the end of the year. The money's there and we know we can get started for that line and track it that way. If the board, that's a good idea.
About how much did you say that? Around 5,000?
Between 5,000 and 10,000, I think could be good to put in there, just so that it's there and we know
Yeah.
we have that budget line to use.
I would. Ellen, this is a question for you as much as, and I appreciate you being here for something else, but, would you think we'd be more comfortable putting 10,000 into that versus 5 and coming back and doing it in 5
I'm
months?
not gonna do the 10, because we have that
Okay.
line to. And if we move 10 now, at least,
Gives us a little,
hopefully we don't have to come back and move it again, but then it would be like maybe a small budget adjustment like I do normally. Instead of being like, why is it 0 there? Then
that's what I was,
we will make it for our eyes.
that's what I was thinking, but I wanted to hear. Thank you. I would entertain a motion at this time for us to move $10,000 from that contract with law enforcement budget line preemptively, budget adjustment, into a bulk water budget line.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I really appreciate that, because that means we can get the letters out. With the change this year, we should be doing it as soon as possible, getting water to people, so I appreciate that, and I will send the letters notifying them and get it set up with Sam's, with start as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan, for that.
You're welcome.
Do we have anything else for our friends?
I guess just for me, I wanted to know whether or not what we're sharing with you is information that you already knew. I know we're going to be working with Tara a lot more closely, so we'll keep her up to date with what our roles and what we're trying to do in Pownell are, but whether or not this is information that you already knew. Are we doing a good job getting this information out to you, or do we need to do something differently?
Well, right now, I think you're doing a good job.
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, I think obviously we know and knew there's a problem in certain areas of town, right? My question to you before was if you can track, if it all came from, 1 or 2 places, right? If you can, and I have a reason for that, right? Excuse me. I think there's a couple of things in here that I found very interesting tonight, was maybe developing at some point a water system for some places in town that have a limited water supply, right? And I don't think that's definitely not a secret. And if there's money available out there somewhere, if we can research that out a little bit, I think that's probably a really good step to take, right? Because that is obviously that poses a problem in different places in town.
Amy, are you still online? I can't see you, so there she is.
Yeah.
Amy, you have money. She's a money person for.
Well, yeah, I mean, the feasibility study is not the money that I manage. What Trish described earlier is a grant from EPA for PFAS related issues. So that goes to the drinking water division that Ted's a member of. And there's some staff in that division who are managing that. So that's what will pay for that feasibility study. Part of what would be in a preliminary engineering report about potentially starting a new water system, it would look at different options, and the feasibility would partly be just the physical conditions, the engineering, how far are things apart, what's practical in terms of, Vermont has hills, we can't just run water pipes everywhere. So trying to figure out those kinds of things, and part of it would normally in a PER be, and particularly if it's getting into feasibility of a new water system, we'll be looking at some of the costs. So kind of back of the envelope, what would it cost to construct this, and what would it cost to operate this? And if anything is known about existing water sources, are there water sources that potentially could be used for larger sets of community, or would it, what guesses would you have about drilling a new well? So, Ted talked earlier about the specific water system where there's the issue of what it costs to build it and then what it costs to operate over the long term. So we don't fund a whole lot of new community scale water systems in Vermont because it's challenging to have the money for it, and things kind of have to align properly. So the financial estimates should be part of that PER, the preliminary engineering report, because part of the point of it is to analyze alternatives and what's feasible. And so there have to be some rough dollar amounts in that on top of just the technical feasibility for that. In terms of funding at that point, so I work for the program in the Water Investment Division. That's the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund. So we get a mix of federal and state money. And most of our money goes to taking care of issues at existing public water systems. We do occasionally fund creating new water systems. It has to be for a public health reason, which PFAS contamination potentially would be. Also, development of a new water system has to go through the Drinking Water Division's capacity development program. And basically, they're going to look at the results from the feasibility study, and they'll be in communication with you and kind of, are you going to be able to set up something that can actually be permitted to operate as a public water system? And is it going to be something that, again, looking at the money, like, are you going to be able to maintain it over time? So they would be heavily involved in that. The Drinking Water Division is really the ones who make the technical eligibility calls for my program. And then we can fund projects. Our funding, we've had a lot of funding the last few years, including some specifically for PFAS. Most of that money from the IIJA is kind of winding down right now, but we will have funding on an ongoing basis. Our funding can be competitive, but projects that are for public health reasons score higher than ones that are just kind of updating water mains and that sort of thing. So I can't promise money in advance. All of our funding depends kind of annually on what we get from Congress, and then we get a match from the state legislature. And then a lot of our money actually comes from repayment of earlier loans. So we have a whole annual process for that. It's kind of like you fill out a pre-application, get on our list, and then that gets you into getting more funding. A lot of times our funding goes in kind of stages. So the preliminary engineering planning tasks, you've got a grant to take care of that. We can fund design. So the next step would be kind of figuring out what would you, the engineering that would need to go into designing a water system. If you determine that one was feasible, actually, depending on what you have for sources, it might be also drilling wells. So that might be kind of a planning and testing phase 2. We can also fund design of water systems for whatever treatment that is, anything from chlorination to something more complicated. Hopefully you would find a well that didn't have PFAS, so wouldn't need that kind of treatment, but it might need other treatment. And then we can also fund construction, which tends to be the biggest dollars. So we have an annual funding cycle. If you're interested in that, I can send information about. We have a hearing coming up in about a week about that kind of goes over our whole funding program, and you can kind of look at examples of that. Also, you can just reach out to me when it gets to that point. I'm in touch every week with the folks in the Drinking Water Division about potential projects and where things are. So I think if it migrates from what comes out of the feasibility and preliminary engineering would turn into potentially a project with my program, I would certainly hear about that from the drinking water staff, but reach out if you have questions.
My intent is to include Amy on the monthly meetings that we would end up having. So she would definitely be aware of where we are and any progress moving forward to help make sure we are lined up for funding options. What were you saying?
Yeah, just a quick question. So on your annual funding cycle, Amy, how many tests per year can y'all afford to do?
So testing is a bit of a pickle because most of our money is for public water systems. So that's who can be the borrowers for our loan program as public water systems. You don't have a public water system. Like if you're talking about developing new community water systems, that sort of doesn't exist anymore. So we're not really a good avenue for that kind of funding. I think talking to Trish, who's going to be working with the drinking water program on that grant, would be looking at eligibilities for that. That grant program for PFAS mostly overlaps with our program for PFAS for loans, but it has a few things that are more eligible. So we have a hard time paying for water testing. Sometimes we can make exceptions for it. Again, I defer to the Drinking Water Division on making those eligibility determinations, but because our funding in federal statute is for public water systems, it's not easy for us to use it to reimburse for private well testing, even though it makes sense as part of the feasibility questions, but it can get a little tricky. So I think the EPA grant may have some more flexibility for private well testing than what we have.
Thank you, Amy. Before, I know I'm not running this meeting, but I feel like I am. Brian, do you have anything you want to add just on how you can assist Powell with any enforcement related issues or questions?
Well, we'll start with this. We have an enforcement officer that works at district, Patrick Lokes. I would imagine some of the folks on the select board have probably heard of Patrick. He spent the better part of Tuesday in town dealing with open burn violations. He's our guy in that corner of the state. So I should probably give you his number since I'm up here in Montpelier and I cannot get down there in a hurry to address an instant issue, but I'll give you that number here right now, and then I'll kind of give you guys a quick recap of what we do. But Patrick Lokes is the enforcement officer currently for that area, 802-747-8127. We'll be bringing a new enforcement officer in towards the end of the year that's going to cover Bennington County and Windham County. With Patrick overseeing that individual. But as far as DEC enforcement is concerned, we oversee, our statutes, rules, and regulations for the state, and those things range from open burning to hazmat releases to stormwater violations to stream alt issues that aren't permitted. Take your pick, failed wastewater systems. But let me just read this off. I did this at Municipal Day last year. But the enforcement unit's available to coordinate with local officials when a jurisdictional need arises dealing with an environmental statute, rule, or regulation. As I stated earlier, DEC enforcement officers oversee and enforce dozens of environmental statutes and coordinate with program analysts to help keep Vermont environmentally sound. DEC enforcement is a resource to tap into when it comes to managing environmental issues in your town. Again, Patrick, like I said, he was there on Tuesday. I think he's told me he's been in Pownell 3 or 4 times in the last month for various issues. Whether he's coordinating with your health officer or it's just it's an anonymous complaint, he's there. EOs cover broad geographic territories with every town, as I just mentioned, and he would be your best resource. My number as well, if you can't reach Patrick, you can always reach me, which is 802-793-3936. And again, we'll have a new EEO covering that area by the end of the year. We're receiving 3 new enforcement officers and increasing our staff within the next week, and they go through a pretty rigorous training spell that will wrap up around the end of the year. But I think that's what we have to contribute. I think Trish had mentioned something about a lot of dumping that's happening around town. There's a lot of ways that we can deal with that. There's also a lot of ways that local law enforcement and the local health officer can, and we'd be happy to partner with either of those entities in town to help reduce the amount of local dumping, starting with hanging signs. But we also utilize cameras and other methods to determine who's doing the dumping and hopefully, not to sound too hokey, but to bring those individuals to justice. I think that's what I've got. Anybody have any questions for me?
See, I think this has been incredibly helpful. You asked, how much of this we were familiar with, and I think that depends on who you're talking to. And some of it, yes, and some of it, no. And I just think periodic direct conversation like this is extremely helpful, not just for us, but also for our community and the people who are watching the select board meetings.
I think one thing right there, just with Ryan, for me as the health officer in town too. Knowing that, okay, now I can reach out to Patrick. Now I have a name and a phone number attached and we can work together if there's cameras and that kind of stuff. Now we can go ahead and attack some of that. Where before we had researched it out, but now I know. Right now we have something concrete to work with, which is incredibly helpful.
And I think, I had suggested when we were here in June, that if you just don't know who to reach in DEC, I'm happy to be your point person to get you to the right person. Because there are a lot of us here that are all working on, small parts of the bigger picture. So I'm happy to be your point person just to get the right person involved. So.
Perfect. I think it's been incredibly helpful to us all the way through. I think we've, we all know there's a problem with the PFAS. We know we gotta do some water remediation. We know we gotta do some different things. We knew that, but now having the information, where, Sean comes in and gives us the information on one particular site. Right? Now we have kind of a broad view, or at least I do. A broad view of what the overall picture looks like.
And thank you for advocating for us.
Right, for sure. For sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Sarah, do we need 7? Did we take care of that? What you needed, that was discussion and possible action.
Yep, that.
That was the water part, right? Hey. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Approval minutes, July 23rd, 2006.
So move.
Second. Any discussion, corrections?
Yes, please. I have a question. So because we made a motion before with the change of that, can we rescind our?
I looked that up. Joel.
I don't.
For the previous minutes.
Yes, I don't like right,
I did look it up.
right. I know they have to stay, but I want them so like our new minutes reference.
She's talking about the bridge. You all motioned to do work on the bridge, but now that's
three.
different.
I did.
No,
She's referencing when you motioned to do the
for the
temporary bridge.
yes.
Right.
temporary bridge, but now that's off the table, so she thinks we should rescind that.
So that when we're not here, somebody's looking for the chain, that it's in the minutes.
We can certainly.
But I don't know where.
Wait, do we have to rescind it? Because if we did
Well,
make a
that's-
motion, I'm just asking if we can do this.
Old business?
If we made,
I'm not sure.
Whole business with that?
Right.
Hold on,
I don't-
One at a time.
I'm trying to figure out if this is actually necessary, but at one point we made a motion and it passed to implement a temporary bridge. And then subsequently, we received new information, which indicated we should do something else. I don't think we have to rescind the old motion. What we've done is we've just basically updated what we've decided to do. We passed a new motion to move forward with that work. So I don't think, I'm not even sure it's actually proper to go back and rescind all motions.
Yeah.
Right, is because you put a dollar amount in there, you approved like spending 389,000. So do you think for an audit cleaner, if we just.
For an audit, when our external auditors read that, they're gonna wanna know where we spent 300, whatever.
I will not use the word rescind, I just want it
No, I think
mentioned.
that's the right term. I think under old business, when we get down to that, I think you're right, Carl, under old business, we somehow word the
Yeah.
motion that we are not proceeding with a temporary bridge, we're proceeding with bridge repair.
But I just think that's a new motion.
Right.
Yeah, I think we make a new motion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna be very touchy.
What you had said.
That's right.
Correct.
Under old business, I think would be the best place.
That's.
Because that, like I said, I didn't know where it
Yeah.
would fit in.
And it's in the minutes for this meeting that that's what we did.
Right, we just.
We're not gonna.
Yeah, no, I don't,
We're
yeah,
not gonna change the minutes of those for that.
Right.
Okay. Good point, Dean.
I have poor choice of word, but I was
Sorry.
going to guess.
Anything else? We need more instruction in the minutes of, July 23rd. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Accounts payable. July 31st, $77,354.23.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Accounts payable August 7th, $27,411.59.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Accounts payable August 14th, $14,830.96.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Payroll July 31st, $11,927.06.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Payroll August 7th, $13,139.37.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Payroll August 14th, $12,344.15.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. 2026 tax rate discussion and possible action. Hi, Ellen.
Oh,
Let me get close to the table.
no. I'm in process of showing my assistant treasurer little on and end different
So would
things.
you introduce?
I sure will. So this is Tammy Soul. She has been my assistant treasurer. Now she has more time, so as she can come around, I have been teaching her different things, so I had her come to the meeting this evening just to see the process.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you for commenting.
you're welcome. So the tax rate before you received a copy of this and nobody reached out to me with any questions. I did put all the back up in the packet. I did have Tara send a new copy of the printout, because on page 2, I forgot to change the homestead rate from last year's rate to this year's rate, not in the calculation part, but only in the just typing it out. So I corrected that. But the tax rate was set on the proper school rate. So the tax rate for the overall municipal tax rate is 0.8015. Added to the different school rates, so the homestead tax rate included in the 0.8015 would become 2.2636. And the non-residential rate is 2.5226. And the worksheet shows you where the increases and decreases were.
All in the archive as well.
Yeah, and it's all in the archive as well. Sarah made sure it was put in there for anybody that wanted to read it. So this is the tax rate set by
The voters.
the voters. You voted for the budget, you passed the budget. With the amount to be raised by taxes listed in there. You did the 2 articles, so this is the rate to raise the money we need. For the general fund and the road fund
In the school,
and the ballot articles
in the school tax, education tax.
and the school education tax.
What's your pleasure?
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the tax rate. We don't have a big choice here.
Right. You want that? Well, wanted the total, that way I can include it in the, I
So.
don't have that right in front of me. Sorry. Asking ye shall receive.
Back. Yes, you can see it. This was sent to you, so you're going to, this is the homestead tax
Yep.
rate, that's the non-residential rate. that's the tax rates. With and that is just the town tax rate.
Well, yeah, but.
That is the total
These are
tax
finals.
rate. Yeah.
2.2636,
Correct.
2.5226.
That's the town plus education.
Yes.
That is the total tax.
That's the
rate
total
for
tax. That's the number that I was looking for.
the next fiscal year.
20, the tax year we're in.
Make a motion that we set the tax rate, homestead rate at 2.2636 plus the $75 bond. And the non-residential rate is 2.526 plus the $75 bond.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Our hands are tied.
Right. Right.
These are the cards we
we
dealt,
freaking
that's what it is, that's it. Numbers don't lie.
Right.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Hey,
Opposed?
Jesus, I need a cigarette.
Thank you, Ellen, for that.
You're welcome.
Fiscal year 2026 budget adjustment, discussion and possible act.
So again, this was sent to you in your packet. I see, so the general fund adjustments. Total $36,494.12. With several different accounts that I would be moving money to. And that will be coming from, one of them would be coming from the CD trash and transport. That's just because in charging for free dump day, we have a budget of 10,000. So it was overcharged. So I'm actually just adjusting and putting it where it belongs in the CD trash. That's $1,104.12. And the other $35,390 is coming from the contingency expense line. And that will take care of any overspent lines as we vote a total budget and not line by line at a floor meeting. We can make budget adjustments.
What's your pleasure?
The number's too fast. I'm sorry.
Motion to do budget adjustments for the general fund as presented by the treasurer would be great.
Yes, I was getting there, but I want the numbers to be included.
I'm thinking you include the numbers down.
You just include numbers, okay.
Somebody wants to look the numbers up, they can find it.
All right.
It'll be in the minutes.
Make a motion to do budget adjustments for from the general fund, our secretary's recommendation. Treasurer, sorry.
It's presented from the treasurer.
From.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now the road fund. I have a few accounts that money will be moved into, coming from the contingency expense line in the total of $11,080.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the budget adjustments for $11,080 on the road as presented by the treasurer.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's it for you.
Thank you both. I found you 3 minutes. Yes, I did.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
Anyone else?
Updates from town officials. Good night, Tammy.
Let's see here. We have a second class license for Royal Enfield of Bennington County. Let's get that out of the way first.
I'll entertain a motion.
It's for Royal Enfield. It's the second class, I believe, liquor license.
Yeah.
For down in North Pownell, they have events where they
tomorrow.
okay, yeah.
Make a motion to approve second class license for Royal Enfields.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's from Walt Klinger. He attends our BCRC meetings. Gentlemen and ladies, on Thursday, the 15th of July, 2026, I attended a regular meeting of the Bennington County Regional Commission. There were two main points of business conducted at the meeting. Ms. Angie Allen of the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation conducted a final public hearing of the 2026 Tactical Basin 1 plan. This includes Hoosick River and Pownell. The plan is now in effect and may change the way Pownell can implement development and usage along the Hoosick River. There was a public hearing conducted on the Bennington County Regional Plan as now revised. The regional plan has many new wrinkles that have been working their way through the state required process of implementation. The newly revised regional plan will make significant changes to how Pownell must treat new developments, permit projects going forward. Many changes put in the new plan should be considered and debated as they have a direct impact on our town. A comment period on the plan is now open. The town DRB may want to review the revised plan. He may need planning. Revised plan and submit comments for suggested changes or amendments beneficial necessary to Pownell. On another note, I am still more than happy to continue serving at Pownell as BCRC representative, attending meetings and reporting back best I can. As I'm sure you know, I am much hindered by increasing hearing loss. I'm deaf as a post. While I do my best to digest what goes on and ask questions at these meetings to get it right, I am quite concerned that I will miss some important information that should be conveyed to you. I know it has been hard to find other folks that want to represent us at BCRC. Finding someone to fill Pownell's second vacant BCRC seat, I believe, would ensure you get the information you may need from them. Sort of at the same time, I got a letter of interest from Carl that he would like to be considered for that co-commissioner seat at the BCRC meetings.
Make a motion to accept Carl's letter and for the BCRC.
And appoint Carl as second member. Any kind of second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain.
Let's do asking.
Yeah.
Okay, so just an
I don't, I just, I would like to thank Walt publicly for his update to us. You know, I think we definitely should do that. So thank you, Walter, for.
Yeah, and I appreciate he attends all of their meetings.
Yeah, he's been very, keeps us updated really well on that. And Carl, thank you for stepping up and taking that on.
Yeah, I think it's important that Walt's able to continue doing that.
Yes.
And the two of you together, I think it's gonna be a good combination. And I do think we should take on this issue that he's brought. I know that Terry and I were talking about it, and yes, I think we should add this to our agenda to have discussion about the recommended changes.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna bring that up under new business. Yes, I have that on new business. So just an announcement, the zoning administrator position has been advertised for 2 weeks. Planning is going to hold interviews on 9/1 for applicants. So Mike is still currently in the position. It's just up for reappointment, so the planning commission asked us to advertise, and so that's. And then lastly, this is kind of a weird. But there was a lot of trash left at Clayton Park, and I know Jamie and Mike, you're aware of this because I CC'd you on some emails. Normally town-owned property, the highway department's willing to pick it up if it's moved to the road. Tom just wants official approval from the board to accept that trash at the transfer station. Because I think there's some concern that it's in addition, or he's taking it for free, so it might look like he's losing money in that way. I think that's what the concern is.
That's fine.
I'm sure.
This is my concern.
So he just wants official approval to take that trash.
I'll entertain a motion for the.
Oh, move. For official approval to take that trash that's being gathered to the transportation.
Second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. I'd like to give a shout out
So that was it for updates.
To get give a shout out to Leonard on cleaning that up. He's taking it upon himself to
I guess I do have one more update, sorry. Priscilla's Burrington Road, it just says completed. She worked with the resident to assign a number. The road foreman approved the current driveway, phone calls and emails, text, letter. Barber Pond Road, she completed with an email, site visit, and text and letter. That's it for updates.
I have one update. As everyone knows, we've been with the rescue squad. We've been having a meeting every 2 weeks. I'm the representative from Powell with the regional task force. I don't remember the exact name off the top of my head, but with Nick Zayek from BCRC and representatives from the other towns as well that Bennington and Powell serve. That's been moving along really well. The discussions are now in a stage where I guess my big encouragement is I want to encourage people to keep an eye out for things. We're on a timeline now where September 9th, we have a meeting. We had one this past Wednesday. Another meeting on the 9th of September. We haven't formally agreed on what the scenario or what the option, there's gonna be a couple of different options. We haven't formally agreed on what the best option is yet, but we have been, we're really close. So the best option is gonna be moving forward for Powell and Bennington Rescue. It's been a really productive. The meetings have been very productive. We've asked a lot of hard questions. Different people have asked a lot of hard questions. And we've gotten answers for them. So my preemptive feeling is I'm pretty excited about what's going forward and where it's headed. And I think that the solidarity is really there within the whole entire group. So I think everybody recognizes it. There's gonna be a lot of education coming out on what, why, all that. There will be some public meetings. They're coming up in September. So keep your eye out for that. We're going to have meetings in Shasberry, Woodford, I don't know, and Bennington. And when we have those meetings, when the meetings are here or wherever, the group is going to attend the meetings as a group. So hopefully I would encourage. I'll get to when our meeting is. I don't remember exactly. Here in Putney. It'll be posted. It'll be posted, and I would encourage as much involvement from the public as we can get, because it is an incredibly important thing moving forward. But I'm excited on what's going on.
Thank you for continuing with that group. I know that that's a lot of work and it's a big commitment and it's something that's absolutely necessary. And I'm really glad to hear that there is that sense of solidarity that it sounds like it's even grown since the first couple of meetings. And
Yeah,
so that's great.
Yeah, there's some options out there that people have worked on and people are happy with, people are fairly happy with what the options are.
Yeah,
in the group, within the group.
I've been hearing a lot of positive feedback from other towns on this too.
Yep. So that's all I have. I just wanted to bring people up to speed on that. I know that Becky's been working really hard on this, and I know that people have asked a lot of questions or continue to ask questions. I don't have a whole bunch of specifics, to be honest with you, because we're still in the draft stage. That what's going on, but on the 9th, I think we'll have, in our meeting September 9th, we can have our with the preferred option is. Basically. That's it.
Awesome, thank you.
Old business discussion and updates.
Gonna bring the ACO mileage conversation back so he can be here. Its agenda was a little packed tonight, so I'm gonna put that off. Clayton Park, Julie, do you wanna put that off or do you have?
Yes, 'cause no, I reached out to some and I'm waiting for some more feedback.
Local option tax, Carl, Julie and I did that training online, learned some really valuable things. I think it'd be important for the board to start thinking about what you wanna tax, because you can tax meals, room, tobacco and alcohol, and marijuana. But they're different, right, they're
Sales tax, yeah.
types of the tax that you would be, you either choose all of them or only some of them. But I'm gonna be doing some more training on this and how to implement and how to do all those things. But that's the first step, is sort of the board deciding what part of that tax you would actually want to use, if any. So I'm gonna suggest we bring this one back as an old business again, and I'll bring more information. And Carl, I think we should reach out to the state to get those estimated numbers.
Yes,
So that we can share that with the board about.
yes. Because the estimated numbers for sales tax are available online.
Yes.
But the numbers for alcohol, rooms tax, and the other one are not, because Pownell does not have enough.
They don't like to.
Right, if there's more than, if there's more than 10, they'll make the stuff available to the public.
Right.
But if there's less than 10 vendors, they won't, because they're worried about privacy issues.
Yes, it makes it too.
But if you ask them, they'll turn around and give you the figures, but not how many numbers go into those figures.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, if we're trying to get those numbers, as we discussed before, for alcohol, tobacco and the cannabis,
Yeah.
then, yeah, we don't need to.
But I think you're mistaken on cannabis. It was not involved on that. Cannabis is involved to that as a sales tax.
Okay, I know, but what I'm trying to say is it's a separate category, so there's.
There's 3 categories.
Sales. What's the third category? Room sales.
And you purchase alcohol. If you're purchasing alcohol to drink at a
Bar.
and then if you're eating in a restaurant or prepared food, you get taxed. And if you're in a hotel, you get taxed. And if you buy something, you get a sales tax.
Okay, so I am going to summarize this information in a better way.
That's awesome.
And I'm gonna bring it back with us, it was, but I haven't had a chance to really organize it in a way I could share with the board. And get those estimated figures with you and then.
It looks like that.
Yeah, and then the board can decide from there. I'm assuming that we have a goal of getting this on to March ballot.
Yeah.
I do for sure. I've been talking with, Tom Haley a little bit about it. And I like the idea that of what banks, and I don't remember if they are doing it right. They just did it or if they're going to do it.
They'll be voting on it in November.
No, the next few days, they're gonna have a public question and answer thing.
Right.
I like that idea. We'll do a public question and answer specifically on that. Here,
Required.
Yes.
and then, well, we have that public hearing. Right, but if we just have, before we make a decision, if we have a public question and answer thing.
I think they've made the decision. They're having we should have it beforehand. I agree with you, Mark. But I think they've already made the decision.
Well,
At the select board meeting, so they're having their.
I mean, I'm fine with making the decision because I know where I land on this and I know exactly what my feelings are.
Yeah.
And there's also things to discuss about where the money goes, what you're using it for. Sometimes designate it for specific projects isn't a great idea, but you could do, this is just an idea, capital projects. Our first focus is the bank. That's just an example.
That would be in that category.
Right, in a capital projects category, it doesn't limit you, basically. You wanna pick something that doesn't limit what you can use the money for.
Right, and I think that, we don't have, obviously we don't have any restaurants, so we're getting any meals tax really. And I don't think we go after that anyway. I think we go after the alcohol, and tobacco and cannabis sales tax and that way it's not somebody who has, a hotel or whatever, we're not.
Right, but I was looked up for the cannabis and it was like, no, because the state is keeping all that money for themselves.
The other reason that makes more sense to go after those three categories or to like choose those three is that distributes the tax burden much more fairly across the population. As opposed to focusing in on one or two specific industries and businesses where there are only a small handful of people who will be affected by that.
Right.
It seems much more equitable.
Mhm.
To go broader.
Any other old business?
Yes, who's it Hydro request to remove the sediment? The last email from. If I can find it, Jessica Barcelo. Mike had the questions.
Yep.
As far as what to do with zoning before you all gave the go ahead. Or said anything about it really. He wanted to know what he should be doing as zoning. She said, based on the information provided, the project appears to be a maintenance activity rather than new development. The proposed work is intended to restore the site previously documented FEMA map conditions and maintain the function of existing infrastructure, rather than create a new development or expand an existing use. The work is limited to the scope and involves the removal of a small amount of accumulated sediment to restore the river channel to historic conditions. Restoring the channel to these conditions is expected to improve conveyance and help reduce future maintenance concerns associated with the sediment buildup around the bridge. Although the proposed activity does not fit neatly within a specific exemption listed in section 6.3.1 of the Town Land Use Bylaws, it appears to meet the intent of the exempted activities. The project does not result in new development and is intended to maintain and improve existing infrastructure conditions. Therefore, the project should be considered an exempted activity under section 6.3.1, although the final determination does rest with the town.
So after we got that email, I called Jessica.
Okay.
Okay. And I apologize, I should have forwarded this to you, Tara, forgot, she emailed me back. And that's exactly what the conversation that we had initially. So, this was August 5th. Another option for the town would be to permit the project under section 6.3.3 administrative review. And I'll forward this to you. Okay. Permitted development, the following development activities in the special flood hazard area that meet the development standards in section 6.4 require an administrative review from the zoning administrator and may receive a permit from the zoning administrator without review by the DRB. River and floodplain restoration projects, including dam removal that restore natural and beneficial floodplain functions and include written confirmation from the ANR Regional Floodplain Manager that the project is designed to meet or exceed the applicable standards in this bylaw. Under this approach, the project would require an administrative permit from the town, unlike the option she described in the other email. As a result, section 6.3.2 would apply, meaning the permittee would be formally required to obtain all required state and federal permits before work begins. I think this may be the better approach if there are concerns that the permittee follows all applicable permitting requirements.
I'm confused.
But she said, it sounds like we have, and correct me if we need clarification, it sounds like she's given two options here.
Right.
And both could be correct. Are we concerned about additional permitting? I'm just curious.
I have
She's
to.
saying you wouldn't give the permit until they get state permitting?
And federal. if it's
Because-
permits.
Because Josh Carvel said that he wouldn't give them permitting until they have the town approval. So that's really contradictory.
No, I think he has to give the permit,
Well, that's.
and within the permit, the language is they have to have state and federal
Right, but
permit.
if he won't issue the permit until they have those permits in hand, that's a contradictory.
Well, I thought Mike,
It's a job.
I think that we need,
Do it without your.
right, No, Mike gives the permit first with a caveat in there. that
They,
have to
that,
get those.
they can go ahead as long as they have permits from, the necessary permits from the federal and state government.
Yeah.
Leave that's
What
what,
are your
Is
concerns?
that what you're saying, Mike?
That's what the email kind of says, right?
Yeah.
I have some. I have some definite reservations about this, right? Um. Not as much from. The zoning aspect. As I do from a select board aspect. Right? Because in one of those emails. In one of those emails, if the town grants them. Which we have to, right, if they're gonna do it. Then the town becomes an owner, because we own the property.
right, a liable part.
So the town becomes liable. Happens to the bridge.
Oh.
Down the road. Who's liable? The town's liable, in the way I understand that in one of those emails. The town becomes liable for a bridge versus. The contractor or the owner of the hydro plant if the bridge is damaged,
We talk about.
because we are the owner. And we are given the permit.
We just.
We are given permission, basically.
Right,
For them to do the dredging. Right?
we gave,
These are, I just have these problems.
oh, we talked about this before.
And we also have our wastewater,
Mhm.
well, our wastewater, person, Darcy,
Mhm.
has concerns about the forced main going underneath, even though it's a ways away. She has some concerns about damage to the wastewater pipe. I think those are concerns that we have to take or should be
They're
taking
legitimate.
with a lot of thought, because if Darcy's got a problem with it, we should be listening to what Darcy says. Whether we agree or disagree, we need to listen to what she's telling us.
So this is not gonna, it wouldn't necessarily prevent the dredging, but what we're saying is to go through the steps of having the other permits.
In place.
In place as well.
Well, probably the state said, we're not even gonna think about giving them permits until we give a permit.
The other issue we should really consider is that we do lease that dam. We are the owner of it. There might be conditions in the lease that we need to let them do a maintenance activity. Otherwise, the dam is not going to perform the way it's supposed to, is what they're saying.
Well, I think there's another concern too that I have is, and then it's gonna take some research, right? Because there again, I don't know, I haven't seen it. I've heard that there is a condition in place when they put that in. That the dam had to be lowered. A couple of times a year or whatever it was, I don't know the exact terminology, for the property south of the dam.
The lease is recorded in the land record.
Right.
And say, yeah.
So that's, we didn't have a lot, I think we need to spend some time on this before we just rubber stamp someone to go into the river.
Mhm.
And I think we need to find out for sure what our liability actually is if something happens.
Mhm.
Does it, if the bridge gets damaged, is the town responsible to repair the bridge? Is it whose insurance company? Right? I don't know. I'm not that person. But I think there's a lot of concerns here for me. Another concern that I have, and I'm gonna say it publicly, because I really don't care. It seems that the owner is trying to force this issue without letting us do some
Due diligence.
due diligence and some research on this. It seems like he's trying to push it kind of fairly quick.
I will disagree only because they tried last year too. This is the second attempt.
And last year when they tried it, he was at the wrong time of year and there was a bunch of outlying factors on that. As far as that goes. I also would like to see a report, and I know we get it, but I'd like to see it so we have it in front of us. On exactly what the benefit is to the town so that we have that. Without having to research it out.
So as zoning administrator, are you going to follow up on this and work through this? Or?
On the permitting process, on the permitting process. from the town
I mean,
aspect,
as far as looking into.
we have to sign off as a town.
I know, I'm just saying, is that being asked of me? Also,
No, I mean, but you're gonna determine the order of permitting needs to take place.
Right.
Okay, because
From the
there might
zoning
be.
portion of it. And I don't know, Tara, where to go with the town portion of it, because I just,
I think it's all hung up on you with zoning at this point. If I'm understanding this correctly, I don't know.
Can it would be helpful to see her email as well, like giving that alternative to have state and federal permitting as well.
yeah,
If that would be like, if she could, yeah, because we just need to figure out who has to permit first in order to make those requirements.
I just tried to forward it to Tara and it wouldn't. This is that same old thing I have trouble with sometimes.
No, thank you. That's so cool.
Yeah, your boxes, you might be able to see.
Is that what you were,
You
are you gonna pull the lease?
Yes,
Okay.
I want,
Yeah, I think.
and I want to double check with the FEMA guide one, only
Yeah.
because it is. We're gonna break, I don't want to break.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm gonna see if I can send this to Hannah. For some reason, I can't send it to,
And I do recall we had discussed some of those concerns last time, so thank you, that's helpful.
I just think that the town, we need to do some.
Due diligence.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that one will help me with that. I'm being honest, I have a lot. So wait,
Right,
so if we can get our heads around it and
so we can get our heads around of exactly what the ask is. So that we know. Yeah, so that we know, I'm not asking, what, okay,
Yes.
we're asking for.
You can forward it to everybody else, because I can forward to you.
I'm asking for someone to give Armin a response besides me, because I keep telling him, you gotta wait for this answer, or whatever. And I'm not even sure what I'm, because it's based on if it's based on zoning aspects, I don't feel like I should be speaking.
Well, this is the thing, this is what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, Mike. We've got the dam. The rights to flood.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. The rights to flood, you're having issues with. Liability if there's damage done to the infrastructure there.
I believe would all be covered under the lease documents,
Right.
because the town of Pownell is leasing hydro.
For our property.
Right.
It should be all laid out in there that they can perform maintenance activities. I will pull the lease and share it with.
I guess that would be.
I feel like that's great. I'm not sure what else I can do other than pull the lease and see what's in it.
If you pull the lease,
Is the EPA approved using the dam as a hydro plant? The state is saying, yes, it's in line with their maintenance activities. It just feels to me like I'm not sure.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get my head around exactly what.
as far as the zoning administrator goes, that's a permitting thing. As far as the liability goes to the town, I don't think that's a zoning administrator. I think that's a select board.
That's select board, but those are separate issues.
Right.
From the zoning.
Right.
Yeah, but
So-
the select board can give the zoning administrator authority to take and give a permit. Less.
I don't need-
His own authority because.
Right, I don't.
He has administrative authority,
It's in this email,
but I'm getting confused because we're looking at
and so we have,
zoning issues and select board issues.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
And the state is turning around and asking us.
Only because it was select board five and I don't know what should be.
I'm just suggesting that
Hold on, one at a time.
I don't have.
You don't
And
have
now-
I need to be honest with you when I have too much.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting I don't have the capacity to continue looking into this because I have been working on it.
I can look into this now, the bridge, I got the bridge thing off my plate, so to speak, tonight, so I got the residence flag still on there and that's. But that's.
I'm also happy to look at the ones. I mean, compare the two emails.
Right.
look at the administrative review process and then we usually can do that.
And I believe the lease is in the town records.
Yes.
And no, it's in the COT system as well as the.
Are you gonna review the lease?
Should be it. What?
Yeah.
Right.
Just make sure, like, we're not.
You're looking for the lead, the
Beam it.
EPA.
I'm just very concerned.
We have the brown field and
Population.
all that.
EPA is in the deed.
Once,
Is it?
once it became evident that the town was
Looked at
gonna
it. We could go.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
be responsible, it's like, whoa, let's hold on here a minute, is, you know. Here's another, right, so if the town is the owner and the town is responsible if something happens. But we're not hiring a contractor, so we have no idea who the contractor is going in there.
Right.
There's a whole lot of gray area for
Right.
me,
No,
right?
and that's why you want the other permits, because the other permits require the contractor to have certified equipment to be in a waterway. And all the regulations.
But they can't,
when they're
but they
doing-
can't go ahead for those permits until we give them our permit.
No, I understand that. But I'm just saying.
And maybe
why
maybe the route is to
you
give
wanna
them
go-
our permit and then be there when they get their permits and try to put those stipulations in.
I can give him the permit tomorrow on, based on Jess's. As far as the zoning administrator goes, I think the last email that she gave me made the most sense to me, and I heard this, for a phone discussion. That we had for 45 minutes. About this whole project, okay, that's fine for zoning, I can do that, and he's gotta get the rest of his permits and all that stuff in place. That's totally fine with me, but now I gotta shift gears, and we should be shifting gears. As a select board, because now we're putting a contractor in the water. Doing a project. That the town of Powell is attached to.
Correct.
As a property owner, and we have no idea who's doing it or when or what the scope of the project is.
Right. Would it be something where you might get a hold of him and say,
I'm not gonna fly wherever he is.
no, I'm not. Yeah. No, I'm just trying to.
No, I know.
Just trying to think this through, like, that's all. And say, well, you know what? If we could make sure that, I don't know if it's a. To make sure there's insurance that's gonna cover if there's a problem.
I'm sure whoever's in there in the EPA or the state, Josh and whoever else is involved here, is making sure the person's insured.
Okay.
But I'm still concerned about the liability that could fall back to the town. On this project. Once we're named as an owner of the project and of the property. Where is our liability? Do we wanna be dealing with two bridges?
Well,
I've been dealing with one.
Right.
See that somewhere specific, the liability piece? That you can,
What I saw was that the town becomes property owner.
the town is a problem.
you own the property anyway, so I just wanna see where you saw that, so that I can.
I didn't see a liability issue, but once the town signs off and said that they can go in there. Who's responsible if something happens? Does it fall back to the town? Or that's a huge concern for me. It's a huge concern for me. I have to revert back to Darcy. We have a forced main. We have a forced main that goes underneath the water. We also have a water line that comes off. Off that side of the river from the old Tannery Reservoir. We all know there's a problem with water in North Pownell. It's a whole lot easier to repair or replace that water line.
Correct.
Than to pull that water line out, and now we gotta put a new one. Down the road, 10 years, I don't know, there's a bunch of concerns. That I have, and if the board decides that my concerns are. Irrelevant, so be it, that's fine, I'm fine with that.
I don't think we can move forward right now unless we need to look at this lease. I think we have questions now that definitely need to be answered. I think questions about the permitting process and Darcy's concerns need to be taken seriously. So I don't know that we have anything to vote on tonight regarding this. Other than, I don't think it's a vote, but to say, here are our action sort of points we have to do. They aren't yours, but like different parts of this that we can handle and then come back to this. I would say 2 board meetings from now, even. I don't know that we're gonna be done with this by week after next.
Yeah, like I said, I can permit it, I just think it needs to come back to the board before we sign off and say, okay, let's go.
That's fine. I mean, if you could, is there a time, I mean, and like you said, this is coming back from last year. Is there also an issue with regards to sediment? I'm trying to remember that requires us to move at a, like much quicker pace or
Or
is
to be able to do it after October.
okay,
Because of the trout.
okay, so we do need to make some decisions quicker. Okay. Right.
You have something for us for next meeting, right?
Well, don't we meet with Darcy our next meeting?
Yeah.
Is that when we do sewer
Yes,
also?
because we
Is
have to
it-
do
can we-
wastewater budget adjustment.
Okay.
Can we talk about it then?
Sure.
At
With
first,
Darcy.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, instead of having another special, because.
I don't wanna have a.
I don't know, I haven't done a sewer meeting, so I
I wanna put it as an agenda item so that we can discuss these things. I think we need to look at the lease. I think that's a great point. Right? We need to look at what the lease says. If it says maintenance and whatever, I don't know, who knows what it says? I don't remember. We haven't looked at it in 5 years. I don't even know if you were.
I wasn't.
No, she wasn't.
No, but
That was before, that was Megan.
false guarantee that there were stipulations put into the lease that say the town will allow for maintenance activities. Well, and yes,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Right, I don't remember, so with 5 years.
I'm not gonna assume, I'm just putting it out there, but it is an assumption.
There, that's fine, and there may be some stuff in there that binds us.
I
I don't
understand.
think we just give them.
So my question is, I don't mind asking the LCT or the lawyer, is that what you would like on the liability piece? Who do I ask? Who's liable after
Guess we got
the permit?
I think we need to look at the lease and then go.
I
from there.
agree.
the lease and the deed or the EPA's for stipulations. They're.
I also wanna see if we can research out. I'm gonna have to ask questions on that. Research out about that property lowering the water level, and so the property isn't flooded all the time. I think there was a stipulation in there at some point, and I think that goes back to the owner before Armin. I don't even think it's Armin's. I don't think it's anything that he did. I think it was when they put that in with.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure when they put that in with Skelly. Or whatever,
Yes.
he put that in there. I'm pretty sure there was which would probably be in the permitting process, right, Julie? Were you then? So we could find that permit. And see if it's in that permit. We'd have to find out when it was permitted and see if there's anything in the zoning permit. For that, to lower that water level so that the field weren't flooded a certain whatever, so much, I don't know how, I've heard that.
if it's been a while since I've been down there and, cause
Feel
I
like
had an issue with the lid.
I feel like they do lower it. They pull the buoys whenever we ask them to, because that is also a. During the winter. they
Yeah.
Pull those.
Yeah.
They're pretty. It does seem like they're using it the way it's supposed to, but I
don't know.
We definitely need to check the lease.
It also feels, I mean, maybe this is wrong to me, but getting an answer to potential liability sounds like more of a state government question from us. As opposed to just going to our attorney.
Right,
I
I
don't
think it's
know
fine,
whether
yes.
he gets, yeah.
But I think before we ask that question, Tara, we should find out if in that lease it says maintenance, so if we have signed a lease. It says they can perform maintenance, well, then it's a little different story, right? But if we don't have that, then it's not apples to apples.
And that's the permitting process that they go through with the state. I also believe that puts the liability on them, but I'm not positive. That might be a Jessica question.
Yeah.
When they fill out that permitting, they have to take the liability and it's taken off the town through insurance or whatever. I'm not positive.
And I can ask Jess that question, she was great on the phone, so. Anything else on the whole business?
Just that bridge motion, new bridge motion.
Right.
Yeah, that's new.
How do you wanna make that motion, Julie?
Make your motion, you two birds have to get it. No,
What are you,
Sorry.
you're on the select board.
yes, but I speak They don't, so no, they can make the
I'm just
motion.
kidding, Joel.
No,
Then is the motion then to move forward with repairs for our earlier motion of this evening that was passed, as opposed to moving forward with the $380,000 cost to implement a temporary bridge at this point. If we may come back to later, but that is not what we're doing now as a town.
For the last selectmen's meeting,
For our bridge meeting.
for our bridge meeting. No, the previous one would be at our, was that a previous bridge?
July 23rd meeting.
July, the one that she's talking about was made a,
So she's making a motion to move forward with.
with the one we got, but Julie wants there.
With the repair, which was at our bridge meeting.
I think it's that simple. I can read, let me.
So Julie just wanted
that
to
motion.
make sure that we took one out that we voted on.
So let me restate that motion then. I want to move that we move forward the bridge repair as discussed earlier in our special meeting prior to this one. On, what is her date? August the 13th, as opposed to moving forward with our prior determination of trying to implement a temporary bridge.
Perfect. Perfect. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
So, but we're still going forward, looking into a temporary bridge.
Correct, we're just not
Spending any money.
It's not fun.
Right.
We're funding the,
Getting
we're
funded.
funding the repairs.
There's nothing to do with
Not
moving
approved.
forward with it or anything else.
Right.
Hmm.
I just wanted people out there to be confused.
I have a motion, I have a second, any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. That was it, right?
I have something under new business we can just throw under old. PHS and I are working on a new plan for Memorial Day with our Liberty Tree. We would like to get the plaque and memorial installed and then invite the school to participate in their Memorial Day parade. And see if we can bring that back. Students used to parade down Center Street and gather here for a small Memorial Day event. I would also be including probably the Legion, because they are part of that event currently. So hopefully we can get that going again if the board is okay with moving ahead. I'll work with PHS and.
I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Is
Just
that
really-
remember stopping traffic on 7? I'm just thinking about.
When they did it in the past, when I was little, like the fire department did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, my only concern is the safety consideration.
Yeah.
Our kids.
I've been
Like Frogger.
across there and I've been the one to stop traffic, okay?
Okay, fine.
I kind of feel like I might get the state police to help us with the school cross,
Okay,
something like that.
that sounds good.
Thank you.
New business?
I have something, but I don't think it's technically new, but I was just wondering what the status of our reading meet next door with the church. Have we heard anything or?
We have a mediation coming up in.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's coming up in September. It was moved from August to September, as I recall, with a request to do it over Zoom.
Yes.
And I will say that I am still a bit confused about why we're doing this over Zoom. All the parties are present.
The lawyer said that they're in different towns. Yeah, the lawyer did reply. I did send that to you.
Okay.
They're in different towns because if you do it in person, you have to be in separate rooms anyways, so they think it's just. More advantageous to do it over Zoom. I guess that was the explanation.
And I totally hear that explanation. Yes, and it's.
You're next.
So maybe I should just be more direct. I disagree with that. I think that it's much smarter in mediation. Yes, you're in different rooms, like, yeah, right? But I think it's important, anytime like you're having a serious conversation, I think it's important to be able to pay attention to body language. Right? I mean, nuance isn't just lost over text messaging. I think it's lost over Zoom sometimes as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
And I
Right.
think that if there is a benefit to a meeting and be able to walk into one room, have a conversation, walk into another room, come out, like really read the body language that's happening. And I do not agree that it's just as good over Zoom. So whatever that's worth, I'm not sure that any of the parties are best friends by doing that. Yeah.
And I
Works for me.
totally agree.
I'm just-
I think this, we've gotten too far away from actual sit down.
Yep.
Face to face and do things and be done with it.
I think there's real value in that.
Me too, for sure.
So maybe we can revisit that
That's fine.
with council.
Any more new business?
Yeah, but
Anything doing?
I don't think so. I was just curious because I haven't heard anything.
I'm glad you asked. I think other people are curious too.
I'm going to bring this back for, I just want to get everyone thinking. The snow removal at the town offices and the mowing contract is gonna be up, for renewal. So I just want the board to start thinking about what our options are as far as snow removal. I talked with Joel a little bit earlier and he said, yeah, we can absolutely do it, but we can't do it timely. I can't promise you we're gonna be here. We need to make sure that it's plowed. So if the highway guys can't do it, we have to come up with an alternative and then also a way to pay for it. So just kind of please start thinking creatively, whether we want to combine those contracts or keep them separate, or, do we want Joel to continue to hire someone seasonally that does this? Although I don't think that really works for him because they are so busy. But just start thinking about those.
Years ago, it was
ideas.
combined.
What's that?
Years ago, it was combined, when I first got on the board.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we'll think about it and bring it back to our next meeting.
Yeah, just
I think
start
there's
thinking.
multiple options.
Right.
Yeah, there are multiple options and I'm just trying to get a jump on planning for winter stuff. So the other thing was, Jeannie had asked if we were gonna bring back the regional future land use review stuff. And I think it's important that we do that.
You too.
So I just need more information for the
When
capital.
did the comment period close again? He didn't include that, did he? I
No.
feel like
I didn't. He just said there's a comment.
I think it's September 15th.
I think we need to have that. I think it's important to add it to our next agenda. And figure out who we need to invite to give us additional information. I think this is something that.
September 17th.
Okay, we need to be paying, I think that residents and our neighbors need to be paying attention to this too.
Oh, yeah.
They plan to call for a vote on the adoption of the regional plan on September 17th, at the conclusion of that meeting,
And
or this conclusion of the second public hearing.
I'll invite our planning chair as well, because I know he had some questions about.
Great.
In reference to that email.
Thank you.
I'll try. Doesn't work good sometimes.
The only other thing I had to bring up was demolition permits. This was something that we in our office have been trying to use. And we kind of dropped the ball and never brought it to the board to get approved.
It would be.
What's this permit for demolition?
That's for when
So when someone wants,
Hold on.
so when somebody wants to remove a mobile home or tear it down, we've never had permits, so I took a relocation.
I just want to be clear on one thing. Right? Why is it, if we're gonna run a demolition permit, why would it only be mobile homes?
No.
Why wouldn't it be houses
No,
too?
let me finish for a second. So,
Okay,
because we didn't have anything, so we just did a quick thing for relocation because you can relocate it by demolishing it. I just wanted something in writing so that we could give to the lister or the assessors because it's gonna come off the tax roll. And then, so then something happened down at Burdick's with the septic and the sewer, and Darcy had issues. And then because we're not on, so then when Sparrow's Way, we just came up with, Hannah and I worked on it, just something that we can have parcel ID. So
So this whole demo permit process, just so I'm clear, because this was all news to me, not this time, but at Burdick's actually.
yes,
Technically, the select board in the town of Pownell has never had or put in place a demo permit.
no,
This is something that got put in place by,
only because,
so, hold on, got put in place by someone other than the select board from the town of Pownell. Okay,
yes,
I just want to be clear on
The
it.
purpose for it
I understand.
is so that we can track
Yep.
taxable property, like.
I understand.
Be taken down. And then you can be taxing the old trailer when there's a brand new trailer there.
I mean, I understand the point is being able to tax traceable property, right? But to Mike's point, is this something that's only going to apply to mobile homes or will it apply to all?
No.
Okay, so then here's
so,
my next.
wait, so when we have our next meeting with Darcy, we'll have the application that we did, it's included. Well, no,
We're
I'm
gonna
just,
do it in a wastewater meeting. We're gonna do
Okay.
it in a regular meeting.
Okay.
We will do.
well, no, like, so we have it for our next meeting.
This,
So
this really and truly, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. This really and truly has nothing to do with wastewater.
Right.
No,
Okay,
it was just
so-
to,
so
it
Darcy,
was
Darcy,
to let her know,
Darcy should not even really be,
It does.
It does.
Because some
If
properties
they're-
are on septic and she wants to make
Right.
sure they are
Are
capped
capped.
appropriately and other things.
right, so this demo permit, I got thinking about this. This demo permit is not just, I'm demoing out my property at 159 Hidden Valley Road. This demo permit needs to have on it, I'm demoing my property at 159 Hidden Valley Road. Questionnaire, hold on 1 second, I'll get right to you, I promise. Yeah, I do. Are you on town septic or
those are.
do you have private? Needs to be on there, right?
Mhm.
Do you have town water? Are you hooked up to Pownell Fire District number 2, right? That needs to be on there.
We are.
Right. All of that stuff needs to be on here because this really and truly. And I know what Darcy's looking for and she needs to be able to track that for sure, but it's not just. If we're gonna do a demo permit,
It's, yeah.
it's gotta be a demo. permit.
Yeah, it's for any.
For every single property.
that's still not quite getting to my point that I am concerned about here. And I understand that issue, right? You're concerned if you're on town sewer and you've got town water, like we just had this whole conversation about water. We want to make sure that's done right. But there are a lot of properties where that is not the case and that's not affected. And if we're going to require a permit where we have not before, I would like that to be narrowly crafted, just personally. Because just as a general rule, I think we've been having this conversation all this past year. And like, for example, 183, that conversation, like the expansion and the requirements of additional permits in the state. I think sometimes it's helpful and sometimes I think what you're doing is just kind of blocking people's ability to do something that doesn't actually impact anyone else. And so I would just want to know what the distinction is. If we're talking about someone has an old building now, part of an old barn on their property, that isn't going to impact anyone else around them, right? Why require that to be permitted?
Because it changes their
It
tax.
changes for the value.
It
the assessed
changes the
value.
appraised value or assessed value.
And it's gonna change the lister's card. It's gonna also help us on our more civil authority stuff. When we have grievances.
Did you have something that you wanted to say, Hannah?
Say that permit's basically just a checklist, because on the permit, on the new permit. Ellen has to review it as the tax collector, Darcy has to review it for sewer. Mike or I have to review it for zoning, just to make sure there's no violations, there's no
Right.
taxes owed, there's no sewer owed. There's
Right.
no cap, all those things, like Tara said, just to be tracked in the assessor's office.
Right.
And it's not a costly permit, I mean,
No.
it's $10.
Okay, well, that's important to, okay, and so then
So
what's the guard though against someone being able to look at that? And say, well, geez, I think this may affect the taxes on this property or not, and I don't want to be able to affect the tax, I think there needs to be a good. I think there needs to be a reason articulated that's more than just it affects the tax.
But if somebody takes out an old trailer that's worth $2,000 and puts in a trailer that now are worth $100,000 plus, that's a big difference in the grand list. And then Ellen sends out a tax bill could be to the wrong person, because when they ripped down that trailer, it changed. Somebody else put a new trailer on that lot. And we don't have a way of really tracking it. It's a
Yeah.
little confusing, but it's.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think what I'm thinking about is not when somebody is going to put something new in. But there's like talking about garbage left behind and trash. There are places where people have abandoned old mobile homes. And you might not necessarily want to put a new one in, but you want to get that off your, get that off of your property.
I got you.
I just wouldn't want to see someone who's trying to clean up. Here we go. This goes back to the whole Route 7 thing. Let's go back to, I wouldn't want to see someone penalized who's actually trying to clean up their land, not trying to bring in a new mobile home onto it, but who's just trying to clean their land.
One big issue with that, if they owe taxes and you let them take that trailer down, how do you ever collect that tax?
Right.
Let me tell you, Ellen will be all over you like no tomorrow.
Well, that's fine. We can
I've
have a
got this-
conversation about this.
I've got a huge problem with this whole demo permit, the way it's set up right now. Who set the fee at $10?
It's just an administrative fee, that's like, cause that's what our other ones were, that we're just processing it. but
Right.
that's for other fees for
So
that.
that's what I'm saying. If a select board has never,
Well, that's why I'm coming to you. I'm saying we.
I understand. Yes.
We dropped the ball.
Yes, absolutely.
We're trying to address it now.
And I understand that.
So I will be the one I am the one because I want paper trail.
And I don't disagree with the
And
paper
I-
trail.
So, and I wasn't
I am gonna
part
play
of the
devil's
board
advocate.
yet.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here a little bit. Because I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say when somebody tears something down off their property and they came in here and did the proper channels and got a demo permit. And they paid their $10 and it's an old barn or an old shed or whatever, right, that they were getting taxed on. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say they're probably not gonna get your tax bill reduced because it's part of the shed.
But and what if they don't give a damn about that, right? What is the whole point? I mean, I'm just thinking about people who really are just trying to clean up property. Like I'm thinking of someone specifically who was purchased recently here, who's been left kind of a mess. And they want us to put new things on it, but
It's
it needs
also,
to be clean.
it's also for the state. It's for the Department of Taxes.
Okay, but if you've got, Jesus, if you got like a burned out building on your property or something, right? Something that's totally derelict, that no one can live in. I can't, and then literally it wouldn't be habitable, for example. People, it would be condemned. People wouldn't be permitted to live in it. It's not generating a tax income. I mean, it's not generating tax base for us. In fact, it could be a hazard that needs to be removed.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I just sent everybody, so this is, we are we're at a meeting right now. So I sent all the select board members. The town of Bennington's demolition permit. I just want to make sure that I say this now so everybody knows that I sent it at the meeting.
Doesn't matter, you can send it anytime you want. You can.
Yeah,
We can't reply to it.
right.
Okay, if you send it tomorrow night, you couldn't reply to it, but you can send it. to me.
Okay.
So, I mean,
I think there needs to be a demo permit. And I think it needs to track some,
Do you want me to send you all the current permits and see what it is and then kind of just?
that'd be great.
That would be super helpful, Hannah. Thank you.
We'll bring it back for discussion at the next meeting. And I don't know if this is something that needs a policy attached, an ordinance attached, does it get put in the bylaws? I don't know. So I think maybe including
I think it should be in the bylaws, so that people know.
It's, right, it's a gap. Right. There is a need for that information, in all of our departments.
I mean, Jesus, I got my butt chewed out because I didn't give a demo permit for Burdick's trailer park for the house down, and I have no clue. As a zoning administrator, I didn't know there was supposed to be a demo permit, no one told me.
well, that's what I'm saying. We've never had one. You know what I mean? So it was
I
just,
asked you because I didn't get one, well, or make them get one, well, I didn't know they were supposed to have one.
Right.
So. I'm never.
Brian.
Yeah, no, and I think it needs to happen. Because mostly for the. And I agree with Jeannie, I know exactly what she's getting at, if somebody's just trying to clean up. But I also agree with Darcy, because she needs to know if, the sewer's getting capped right and doing this, that, and the other thing is getting done right. And the one water district that we do have, or whatever, so, well. Right,
And I'm just wondering if there can be exemptions to that.
yeah. I think that's something that we could certainly visit, right? but I think we need to do it. Because for the sewer especially.
I agree with that. I don't have just any disagreement about the sewer.
Maybe there's an exemption if you're not on sewer or you're not.
Right, that's what I'm thinking is I would
Care
like,
about the
I'd
value.
like there to be a reduction of blight exception, like, if it's not connected to sewer, and the person can testify and verify that their only intention is to remove a broken down economic structure.
And that, just so you know, the taxing the trailer happens because a lot of times they're unlanded.
Right.
So if you don't want them moving the trailer somewhere without being able to track it or taking it down and then you can't get anything for it. That's sort of.
We get plenty of those.
That's why it was said with the mobile homes.
It's only mobile homes that are like, get moved in, and mobile homes are the only ones that have to have back taxes paid on. Cause not, like, you can just pick up your house and move it, so, oh, you can. I know.
Yeah,
But so it wasn't, it was just to try to get us aware.
I get it.
And yeah, there was an issue recently, Darcy was upset that there wasn't a permit for a trailer in a mobile home park.
I
So
still
we're
think
just
it
trying
is.
to address that issue to make
And I-
sure we all get on the same page, and it is an actual legitimate form that we're using and that we can hold people accountable for.
Any other new business?
No.
Are you sure?
Well, then if we stay 5 seconds, we can.
Yeah, you want me to find something? I got a couple things. No.
Please, no.
Public
Not online,
comment.
no.
I wanna get out here, so.
That's
No
it.
public comment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
There's no discussion around here. All those in favor?
Good evening, people.
Good meeting.